This Moonless Sky, Part 4. In the last part, Marrik, the narrator, was just discovering that Yith, the new kid from the spaceship, claimed to have no memories at all, a strange situation. So he comments, "That has to be mighty strange, being a tabula rasa, a blank page, apart from a huge pile of facts. And maybe a personality. He seemed nice enough, though I can't imagine what a personality would be without memories." "So how do you feel?" I asked. "Fine," he said blankly, and then scratched his head like a chimpanzee. Nothing else came out of him, and we trudged a few steps. I couldn't help looking slightly concerned. The kid's literally an airhead. Suddenly he burst out laughing. "Had you going, didn't I?" he said with the widest impish grin imaginable. I blushed. He punched my shoulder slightly. "Okay, here it is. I feel incredible. I'm so excited to be here. I'm thrilled to my fingernails by those palm trees over there and knowing that they show the way to the beach. And you know what? I like both of you guys. A lot. Already. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but life is good. Why should I hold back? The air is like candy here. My shoes are filling up with sand, and it feels like the stairway to heaven. I was the ship in the bottle up there, in the ship, which was a bottle, and now that I'm out, I'm going to sail." He spun around in a half circle with his arms outstretched and landed in a crouch in front of me with one leg stretched back, like a ballet dancer. Whoa! Suddenly he was so hot with enthusiasm, I could almost feel my eyebrows singeing. This was good. He had something there that had taken me a long time to learn. I grew up nervous about joy. I picked up the common belief in jinxing yourself that keeps so many of us humans from glorifying a beautiful moment. What loopy creatures we can be. So many people I knew on Earth acted as if being glad about something would make the universe retaliate and visit them with catastrophe. We're our own worst witch doctors sometimes. This boy seemed to be free of that mind worm altogether. I piled up my liking of him by another 6 centimeters. I mustn't go much higher. At a certain point, the whole tower of admiration suddenly falls over and becomes a crush. And then the pain is endless. But I just had to like him, a little more than I liked him now, because I could feel it coming, and it felt good, though dangerous. The good ones are all heterosexual anyways, like Xusron. I must keep that in mind. Nobody minds same-sex relationships here, but I still didn't know many people like me. At best, our country is like a small town. I'd had my work cut out for me not to fall in love with Xusron. Yeah, a girl's boy he might be, but he had perfect symmetry and archipelagic freckles and an extra-wide mouth. He ricocheted off the wall of beauty at such an odd angle. He was absolutely fascinating. Anyways, I had done it. He was just a friend. I didn't lay awake at night agonizing over him. Not as far as I could tell, anyways. I did feel vacuous and sleepless at times. Maybe it was just that dry wind off the mountains of the Cadre. Also, the boy, Yith I mean, was too young, something like 3 or 4 years younger than me. Possibly just finished growing his first, well, you know, what the rabbi traditionally looked for in prep for the bar mitzvah. Short curly things. Thank you. Diversity of Earth Cultures, Part 2, my school course. I feel I must restrain myself yet again, though the boy dazzled me. There's no point me lying to you about this. This story is only for people who can stand non-fiction. The beach was very long and small groups of friends were spreading out to different parts of it. Our gang decided Beach Pole 27 was the place to head to. No one else was taking the same turnoff. "You're going to love our private beach," offered Gus, doing a little tap dance and a half turn as he walked. We were walking down a trail just wide enough for 2 horses to pass each other. Casuarina trees surrounded us, looking like pines, with gray-green woolly strings drooping in long tufts where the needles ought to be. They always look hot and dusty, no matter what the weather. Today that look was especially appropriate. The sandy trail was almost flat, but occasionally dropped a few steps down over buried stones as we descended to the beach. Even here inside the wooded area, the sand was hot. I could feel my sandal bottoms warming up. "Looking good, Mtsyach," said Ilea, admiring Klus's dance steps. She was one of the girls who made a protective entourage around one of our area's only serious teen rebels. The word Mtsyach, by the way, a borrowed term of a form of the communicator word for boy, was the local equivalent of dude or boyo or guy here. The full communicator word, Mtsyach, is not part of pop culture, needless to say. So, Klus smirked gratefully at Ilea's comment. He appreciated this fan club. He may have appreciated Ilea personally as well, but it was hard to tell with him. He kept his ears close to his chest. Suddenly he did one of his unpredictable things. He yanked Ilea by the hand and pulled her into his dance, giddily turning and stomping on the path while singing bits of a pop tune. She shrieked and did her best to join in, but before long she lost her balance and ended up corkscrewing into the dust, with her leg up against a tree. Her cry, going down, was like a falling firework. "Ouch," she said when she struck. "You madman, Klus, you ape, you barnyard fowl." He cackled at the ultra-clean derogation, but turned red at the same time. "Oops." Ilea picked herself up and lunged for his ear. Yith's eyes were the size of young octopi and just as fast-moving. Obviously he'd never encountered that sort of goings-on, or at least his current memory hadn't. Klus grabbed Ilea's hand and they wrestled and twisted, both standing up and leaning against one another. "Where is this going to go to?" said Ilea's friend Mastrite, as she shared a laugh with Suyat, the other friend who'd come along. "She shouldn't wrestle with silly boys." "All right, you guys," I said, as they raised ever more dust and started to look almost serious. "What sort of picture does this give to our impressionable guest?" I asked. "Don't worry, Yith. They're just playing around." "Half of me wants to run and half wants to join in," he said. "How weird." "Actually, that's normal," I said. "Here, you grab one of his legs and I'll grab the other." Klus indulged us to tackle him from the legs, and with Ilea twisting and levering above, the five of us slowly brought him down until he was sitting stretched out in the sand with the rest of us on top of him. Everyone was sweating, giggling, madly brushing sand off himself. Local English, by the way, that last word I said, himself. People here decided that the words he and she, the pronouns, needed a neutral equivalent, because we also have something like that in our own language. And they made one up based on the word them, changing the first letter, say, sem, ser. So my brain now talks this mutant language. I may fall into it now and again, henceforth. Back to the story. I'm a terrible person, I thought, as I delayed disentangling from all the limbs. Most of the ones I was in contact with were male, and I was enjoying being wrapped in with these unavailable boys a little too much. I was basking, not wrestling. I'm sorry if I appear overheated at times. I'm a teenager. Yeah, sigh. Also, our culture here has an open atmosphere about such things. Where I came from on Earth, controlling your horniness, let's say, was related to power, learning to master yourself, to be productive instead of lustful and greedy, to restrain yourself for the common good. Talking about anything sexual was considered both embarrassing, because you were getting into your personal weakness, and incendiary, because you might egg everyone else on to get weak and self-indulgent along with you. Thanks just one more time, my school course, Diversity of Earth Cultures, Part 2, my term essay. Here, on this planet, people aren't so worried about sexual thoughts that will sap your vigor and rot your social and moral fiber, let alone cause you to be swallowed by your own inner gelatin. What they care about is if you love the person or not, and if your love crosses up some other legitimate interest. That attitude means that when you're frustrated, you can talk. So I'm talking. I'm exercising restraint. But at the time all this occurred, I was pretty frustrated. And tantalized. The worst thing is that our beaches are very clothing optional, and people here have no notion that the sun is going to give them cancer. Our sun is a little different. They say our relatively recently oxygenated atmosphere is a better ultraviolet filter than the Earth's. Who would buy clothes to get wet in, was the astonished response of one classmate I was describing swimwear to one day. A certain endurance of seeing both beautiful and not-so-beautiful bodies was needed here. rather like in a Korean hot spring on Earth. We stumbled out of the dusty trees onto the foreshore, and Cuss and his female friends gave a yell, threw their togs in a heap by a drift log, and ran into the water. I stayed behind with my new friend. "That looks easy enough," he said, somewhat nervously. "I like how hot it is here." "If you're a jungle plant and you like warmth, you're on the right planet," I said. "Mind you, maybe it's cold somewhere towards the poles, but you won't catch a chill here." "You'll catch something," I suddenly thought to myself, "but not a cold." Oh yeah, an inevitable thought hit me as I looked at my hesitant, curious companion. On the bright side, the communicators had managed not to bring any cold or flu viruses here with them, despite all the people they'd transported to this planet. On the not-so-bright side, we have something truly awful locally in our region. I don't know if it was transported in or if it sprang up all on its own here on this planet in some perverse evolutionary conniption. It's a disease called ferret salure, the children's fever, and everyone here gets it sometime after they're older than about 7 or 8 years old. The organism lives in the soil here and there, as far as we know. You get it, and you feel hideous. Then the medics step in to cure you, and the real fun begins. Groan. But let's not think about that. I hope that Yith would somehow be spared this unique Voilarian milestone of organic reality. The day was so gorgeous, it drove any shadowy thoughts into quick oblivion. The sky was a sapphire with 2 distant cloudy flaws. The air had a sandalwood smell of trees and dust, now and again nuanced with fresh vegetal aroma from the small rocky outcrop in the middle of the beach. Our adventuring party, as we expected, had this part of the beach to ourselves, and now there were 4 brown bodies out there, sporting in the waves. A spiral spray of jewels as Cesseron shook water out of his streaming black hair. A gray-green wave shatter exploding forward as 2 girls skimmed as much water as possible into his face. A yell. More struggles and splashes. "Clothes off, we're missing the fun," I said, and Yith meticulously obeyed, even folding his pants up as I stripped off my own shorts and shirt. "Don't worry, I won't make you swim," I said. "We'll keep it shallow." Very metaphorical, I thought, as a flicker of attraction seared through me. I tried not to watch him disrobing, but he caught my eye. Slightly. "Keep it shallow, dude. Keep your libido to yourself, and don't be even slightly obnoxious. Be perfect." Perfect. Every cubit and effa of him was perfect. Don't look. I should have guessed what was being done to me here, and maybe you already have.